Welcome everybody to the live training. So today we are talking about giving up control. Okay, so we are talking about how to surrender, and I'm going to give you 5 tips or secrets that are not so secret about how to actually move into surrendering and how to find more freedom in your life. Okay, so that's really what we're covering today. We have a few ladies on the line. We are, I just told them just about asking questions and things like that. So we're just going to move on straight away because we'll cover questions and other things that come up as we move along. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen. And we will get started. And I think Samantha just joined us. Welcome, Samantha. Okay, so this is really what we're going to be talking about today. The 5 secrets to surrendering and finding freedom. So in regards to surrendering, a lot of people maybe don't get a chance to well, when it comes to surrendering, a lot of people are scared of surrendering because to them, maybe it feels like they're giving up something, or that they are, they're giving up really in regards to just sort of like, that's it, I've had enough, that's not surrendering that we're talking about, okay? When we're talking about surrendering, it's actually surrendering control rather than surrendering your will or your choice or any other thing that maybe sometimes when we say surrender, that it might kind of bring other, different things coming up on there, okay? What I do want to do is ask you a question right now. And the question is, what does freedom mean to you? So if you have a notepad and pen, I want you to just make a kind of note right now as to what does freedom mean to you. So maybe it's having more time, or maybe it's having more money or a better job. Maybe it's about, having more freedom to express yourself. Maybe it's really about, doing the things that you actually want that make you feel happy. And so if that is the case, then I want you to make a little note just as we go through this webinar as to really what is freedom, what does it mean to you, and how would it actually feel, okay? What does freedom feel to you in regards to, if you weren't stressed, or if you weren't dealing with situations that are taking up a lot of your time and your focus? What if you did have more time or more money or more choice? What do those things feel to you? Okay, so I want you to kind of jot that down and sort of feel into that, because as we move through today's training, I want you to kind of just see where those things kind of fit in and maybe how you can start moving towards them, okay? And as I said, if you have any questions, ladies, then the chat box is there to ask your questions, and we'll go through them as we move along. So we're going to move into the 5 freedoms, as long as I can share this again. The 5 types of freedoms, okay? This is the 5 freedoms that everybody wants to feel, everybody wants to have, and that really that we have an understanding that if we have all or a lot of these freedoms, then we will actually have a better life. So I want you to look at the freedoms that's on the screen at the minute. So number 1 is time freedom. So do you have time freedom, or are you looking for more time freedom? Are you looking to maybe not work so hard? Are you looking to maybe not be so busy? I want you to kind of look at what does time freedom mean to you, and is this a part of one of the freedoms that you're looking for, okay? Number 2 is financial freedom. So what would having more money help you with? Would it mean that, you could pay someone to clean your house, or pay someone to look after your kids? or, you know, not work in the job that you think that you have to work in, because right now it is actually, you know, it's not a place that you want to be. You want to follow your purpose or follow your dreams or write a book or whatever that is to you, okay? So what does financial freedom look like to you, and how would that feel, okay? Number 3 is life work freedom. So that kind of moves on from the financial freedom into actually how would your life look if you had that life work balance, if you're actually doing what your soul feels like it wants to do, if you were a healer, or if you were, you know, a painter, or, you know, whatever that is, that you have this deep yearning in your soul. How would that freedom look to you in your life if you actually had it, okay? What kind of things would be different? How would your life change? What direction would it start moving in if you could actually start putting more of that freedom into your life, okay? Number 4 is freedom of expression, okay? So actually, this is more about being yourself. This type of freedom is more about being your authentic self and being who you really are. So what does freedom of expression mean to you? Is it maybe wearing the clothes that you want to wear instead of maybe you have to wear a uniform at work, or you think that you, because of the type of job that you have, or the type of, you know, a lot of the sort of presumptions that we have about, you know, freedom of expression is that, you know, we can be who we want to be, but then we think that the world will judge us if we are kind of too outside the box. So if we are, you know, maybe we look too different, or we say too many things that are, you know, our truth, but other people aren't going to appreciate it. So do you have a freedom of expression to a certain extent, or does this freedom of expression mean that you can actually be the person that you feel truly in your gut who you are, and that you have, you know, there's no excuses, there's no apologies, you are just going to show up as who you are, and that's basically it, okay? So what does freedom of expression mean to you, and how does that feel? How does that fit into, you know, what if you got rid of a lot of the stress, the worries, the things that you're bumping up against now, the places where you're feeling stuck? Think about where these freedoms fit into where you are right now, and how they may actually change, you know, the situation that you're actually in, okay? Number 5 is freedom of choice, okay? We all have a choice, no matter where we are, or who we're with, or, you know, how we show up, is that we have a freedom to choose. But we can limit this, and we can, in fact, we can limit ourselves as well as limit other people to their choices. And a lot of the times, how we use control is that we limit other people's choices, and we limit our own choices, okay? Because some choices, they may be either outside our comfort zone, or they may be, they may actually make us, we know that they're there. So for instance, say you're in a relationship that isn't working anymore. Sorry, I just forgot to mute my phone. For instance, say if you're in a relationship that isn't working anymore, one of those choices would be possibly to leave that relationship. But if that feels too much, then you will find other choices within the relationship to try and mold yourself into, or fit yourself into a certain type of box, rather than make that choice of leaving the relationship and being authentic to yourself and making maybe possibly the right choice. That's totally how it feels to you. It's nothing about, you know, my judgment, or, you know, every situation is different. But I want you to look at choices as that there are always choices in your life, and you always have a freedom to choose, but it's whether you limit yourself to what those choices are. Okay? So I'm just going to come back and just check if there are any questions. How does that sound to everybody? And welcome everybody who has joined us. If you have any questions, use the chat box. Welcome Sylvia and welcome Samantha. So how do those sound to you first? Because we need to understand really what freedom is, how we can actually make it tangible, how we can, to say, oh, I want freedom, but then have no idea what it is or how it would feel to you. We need to have an understanding of it first before we can go into, the letting go of control and surrendering, because we want to have a direction that we want to go. We need to see where we want to flow or where we want to move into, an area where maybe it's not working because we don't see what the freedom is in it, if that makes sense. Okay, so if that's all okay, we're going to move on, ladies. So if you've made a note of your what does freedom mean to you, and if any of these things come up, then I want to look at how we control our lives. Okay, so maybe this looks maybe this looks like some of you, or the day that you've been having, or the month that you've been having, or the year that you've been having. And this is what I want you to understand about how control can kind of take over our lives, okay? Is that we will fill our lives full of busyness and, so much stuff to do, rather than actually surrendering it and letting, all the things that we think we have to do and see where it takes us, okay? Because that takes something completely different that a lot of us are not schooled in or trained in or even taught by our parents how to do. So actually, this picture of this lady who's multitasking and doing everything could maybe be, how your mum worked her life, and how she tried to juggle everything. Maybe it's yourself, your sister, your mother, every woman you probably know has some kind of life like this. And it's because we are just trying to fit ourselves into this box of how we can be everything to everybody, okay? And so part of that is people pleasing, but the other part is actually we feel we need to be in control of our lives because it gives us a certain sense of safety. All right. And please do comment if this is who you look like or how you feel like. So whenever we actually feel like that, then we actually need to look at why we are, feeling exhausted, feeling, stretched to our limits. Because what you will actually, when you stop and look, then you will see that maybe your life is overly busy, that you're trying to do, as I said, everything for everybody, and you're leaving yourself last. Maybe you have to-do lists coming out of your ear holes, and to-do lists is something that we have learned. We have learned from school, we've learned from parents, we've probably maybe even learned at work from our boss or whatever it is. So to-do lists and going down through to-do lists is another way of being busy. Plans with rigid structure. So again, it's a bit like your to-do list. It's really about, even if you set amazing goals, but if you set a plan in place that is too rigid and is also very masculine, then you will find that, there is no freedom in, doing it differently or following your feelings on, if something happens intuitively or you meet somebody, then you can't follow that because you have a plan in motion that you don't want to move away from. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Worry. So worry is another way of us controlling how we feel. Okay. It's not necessarily that it doesn't feel good to us, but it's a way of trying to control the things that are happening in our lives that maybe we don't feel control over. So we worry about them so that we feel that we actually have some kind of control over them, okay? We use our past experiences. So when we use our past experiences, then other feelings come into play, and those feelings are either fear, either of not getting it done or not getting it done right, or not doing it right at all, or not feeling like you're worthy to do it. Feeling even just scared that, everything is too much and we feel overwhelmed, which is then when a lot of women start moving into that control mode. Maybe it could be guilt. So it could be, maybe that you have past experiences that you haven't finished something, or that you haven't done it to your best abilities, or that, somebody has actually guilted you or shamed you about how you do things or how you live your life, or whatever it is that in the past has made you feel so much guilt or so much shame that it actually stops you from doing it again, even though you know that you actually can. But these then feelings start moving in to block us, okay? And that's what a lot of blocks are usually past experiences and our feelings or emotions, and they just kind of hold us in this stasis. And when we're in this stasis, then we end up having to try and control everything, but we control it all up here, okay? So it's all very masculine and in our heads, okay? So fear, guilt, shame, they have all usually got some kind of, they're a cog in the wheel and mechanism of control. And so ladies, I'll come back into the group here again, just to see, because I think there's a few comments there. Let's have a look. Sylvie says, looks like me. Jane says, it used to be me minus the baby. And yeah, okay, so this is all good. We're making sense here, which is good, ladies. And obviously, with the things that we've just covered as well, let me know if any of this is kind of connecting with you, is resonating with you, as to, what trigger will make you go into your control mode, okay? Because that's usually, if you've been working on yourself for a while, then you probably will find that, it's usually something that clicks in: overwhelm. It could be stress. It could be worry. Sometimes it's sickness. Sometimes it's pain. But it can click us into a feeling of not feeling good enough. And then our mind will start trying to move us into control so that we feel safe, so that we feel that actually we can contain, what is happening in our lives, and that we have some control over it, okay? So let's move on to this next one. So control makes us feel safe, but you may be bored, or you may be exhausted, or you may be recreating the same experiences. So you may find that, you work through something and you think you've worked through something, and then it comes back around again and you have the exact same block and you're going, oh my God, this is like Groundhog Day. Or you may find that it's like you're spinning your wheels and you feel like you're moving forward, but nothing is changing. Everything still seems to be the same. The same problems are there. The same fears are there. The same feelings of maybe guilt or shame or worthiness. It's just that, you don't feel that you're actually making any foothold towards moving forward in your life. And especially if it is in the case of that you want to actually follow your purpose or follow your dreams, or you want to actually just start moving into a place of where there is more flow and ease in your life. And that's why we're looking at this. We have to understand why we want to control things and how it kind of affects us, so that we can be aware of it. So once we become aware of it, then we can actually change it. But we need to be aware of how we're feeling, what maybe has triggered us into our being, going into our control freak zone, and start looking at why we are feeling this way. Okay, so again, if this is, as we're moving through these screens, is that if there is anything that sort of triggers a thought or triggers what's maybe going on with you right now, then please do post a question or post what is happening with you in the chat box, so that we can actually start discussing this as well. So because I want to actually talk a little bit more into this as we go into the next slide. Okay, so what I want to talk about is what happens when you surrender. Okay, surrendering, I'll tell you a little bit about my experience with control, okay, and my own triggers, and hopefully this might help you as well. Okay, so usually my triggers for whenever I go into my control freak zone is usually overwhelm, usually trying to do too much and do it too fast. Okay, so that's very much whenever I'm in my masculine, which is usually all going on in your head. Okay, so lots of things, and this is where our logic and wanting to plan things and wanting to see structure, this is all part of our masculine. Okay, and part of surrendering and letting go of control is moving from masculine into our feminine. Okay, and this scares us a lot. It scared the living bejesus out of me, because until I started looking at this, I didn't actually realize how much of being in my masculine that I actually lived. I probably lived about 95% in my masculine, and every now and again I would maybe get my crystals out or do something a little bit creative. But that, it was like, it was giving myself permission just to kind of get out of my head for a short period of time. And then I would go straight back into it again. So I would go back into, being a control freak, and, my partner, my family, all really, it was like I was always telling them what to do, but not in, it's hard to, it's not that I was telling them what to do as in, you have to do A, B, C, D, and E. It was more how I wanted them to make me feel was kind of the underlying current of my control, or why I wanted to control things. And so part of it was that I don't like conflict. So if it had anything to do that I saw kind of in the near future that something might cause conflict, then I would try and change the trajectory by either manipulating the situation or the relationship, or what that person was doing, or giving them suggestions. This was one of my kind of like under the radar ways of doing it, was I would give them suggestions on how maybe they might do something. But if they didn't do it, then that would trigger me, and then I would start getting overwhelmed, and then I would want to control more. So how does that sound in regards to your own experiences? Has there been something that has happened that you've been trying to control, manipulate, do something your own way, and if it doesn't work, then what happens after that? Okay, so I want you to kind of be thinking about that as we're sort of moving through the slides and the subject that we're talking about. Okay, so surrendering is a huge deal if you are more in your masculine energy, which is in your head, and the way that we have been taught to live in that very linear, structured way, habits and routines and all that kind of stuff, then asking somebody to surrender that control can almost be too overwhelming for them, and will pull them back into their control freak. I know that I took a couple of goes at this first before I properly learned how to surrender, because surrendering means that you're living on a sixth sensory level, okay? It adds something to the way that you live. And if you haven't lived that way, and we're talking about intuition and connection here, is that if you haven't lived that way, then you have no experience of it. And part of control is that we work on experience. So asking somebody to surrender control, but not have any idea or experience of, using their intuition, following their intuition, listening to their intuition, and being an intuitive person, which brings you from a 5 sensory being to a 6 sensory being, then that's a huge shift for a lot of people, and many people just can't get that in their heads. And listen to the words that I'm saying here, is that they can't fit it in, they can't understand it, it just does not make sense. And that's our masculine trying to say, that's a load of rubbish, you can't be doing that. Here, I'll show you all the experiences that you've had before, and this is the 5 sensory, is the good stuff. Well, it's also very limited stuff, okay? So 5 sensory is very much about how we live our lives today. And moving into a 6 sensory level means that we have to surrender some of the things that aren't working for us right now. I'm sure there actually is a few things that maybe aren't working for you right now. And if there's anything that's just popping into your head, write them down in your notebook. But I want to also give you the understanding that actually surrendering is something that you have to practice, okay? It's not something that just comes naturally. And it definitely didn't come naturally for me. And probably for 95% of anybody watching this training, is that it won't come naturally to you either. And it may scare the living crap out of you, okay? But that's why I want to give you some of these tips and some of these secrets and some of these exercises, because surrendering is like using a new muscle, and you have to build it up and you have to practice with it, okay? And as soon as you start doing that, then you can start kind of letting the fingers go on the other side of, you're trying to pull this hand that won't let go. So surrendering is something that, if you want to live a more spiritual, a more purposeful, a more soulful driven life, then it's about shifting your life from being 5 sensory to a 6 sensory living, okay? I hope that makes sense. And actually, while we're here, I'll just pop back in to the chat and see what you are saying. I know I'm good enough, but I find it hard to deal with the situation I live in. And yeah, okay. Now, Siobhan, I know you wrote something up here. Okay. So you were saying that you're in a situation with your mother-in-law, and that she's very negative. You wear all your crystals, and she just has a go at other members of my family. Okay, so she then refocuses on everybody else, because obviously she senses that your energy has changed. I have no respect left and I can't get out of the situation. Okay, and thank you for sharing that, Siobhan. As we move through this, you will hopefully start to see what we were talking about, freedom of choice, Siobhan, okay? So as we start talking about this a little bit further, hopefully we'll start opening up some ideas for choices that maybe you didn't think that you had options for before, if that makes sense. Jane says, I'm still having trouble fully surrendering. Sometimes I am getting much better. Absolutely, Jane. So as I said, when it comes to surrendering, it is a practice. It takes practice, and it takes trust, which is what we're actually going to go into now. So let me share the screen again. Okay. Why do you think we need to control anything in our lives? There's a good question for you. If you had a belief that there was something bigger than you who created this planet, who created this world, who created everything from the clouds in the sky to, you know, the most microscopic creature that you need, you know, microscopes and all sorts of paraphernalia to see. And again, it is so, so perfect, okay? So from a tree to the flowers to us as human beings, and when you look at that big picture, you realize that everything fits into it like a jigsaw puzzle, okay? That this force or this energy or this being or this entity, whether you call it the universe or God, goddess, source, Gaia, whatever you name that you have for it, this is a big part of understanding why we feel we need to control everything in our lives, okay? But if we zoom out from our own life, okay, so if we zoom out and start looking at the bigger picture that we, you know, that we are one person on this huge, beautiful planet, and even if you zoom out even more again and look at our planet and really how we fit into the cosmos, not even just our own sort of solar system, but actually the universe itself, and how, again, everything seems to just fit in together like a jigsaw puzzle, then why do you think that we feel we need to control something that is already working perfectly? All right, so there's a question for you. Why do you think we need to control any of it? Maybe it's because we actually realize that we are just a tiny dot on a tiny planet that's another dot in a huge cosmos, and galaxies within galaxies, you know, and maybe it's to make us feel important. As I said before, maybe it's about making us feeling safe, feeling secure. Part of that is maybe because we don't accept something about ourselves or about our lives that we're not happy with. So we want to change it, but we don't know how to change it. So we try to control a different area of our lives. Okay? So why do you think we need to control any of it? And maybe mull that over and sort of let that sit kind of just back here as we kind of go through the next sort of 5 steps and tips as to how we can actually start letting go of control. Because maybe when you start seeing how we can let go of control, you can connect it to what you're actually trying to control. Hopefully that makes sense to you. All right. So yeah, safety, security, separation. And one way that we feel when we feel separate, and again, that's how we kind of think our way into it, is by comparing ourselves to others. Maybe feeling that we're not good enough. Somebody's better than us. Somebody has something more than us. Somebody has the life that we want, whatever that is. But that's how we actually end up finding ourselves in that control zone or being triggered into it, because we have a problem with either we don't feel we have a choice, or we don't feel that we can express ourselves, or we feel that somebody has something that we want. All right. So the 5 not so secret secrets. How do we start surrendering. How do we start giving up control? How do we start letting that shit go? Number one, trust. How do I learn to trust myself and trust the universe or God or goddess or source? Just say if the universe is in anything, you put in your own word for that. So as I said before, whenever we want to start surrendering and using that muscle, is that we must practice. So what we need to do as tip number one or secret number one is we need to trust. And how do we trust? Is that we practice collaboration with the universe. Okay, so it's about starting to set up a communication, a line of communication between you and it, or you and him, or you and her. Remember, we are all part of the collective. We're all one. So actually, we're actually just collaborating with a higher version of ourselves. Okay? But trust is something that needs to be built. It's not something as a human being that we give away freely, or we give away haphazardly, or just, oh yeah, I trust you, no problem, because we've learned from experience that it's something that needs to be gained. So we need to gain that experience by practicing collaboration, okay? So it's doing little small things. Maybe it's about asking for a sign. Maybe it's about just starting to let something small go rather than letting go of something huge that will totally throw you back into overwhelm again. And it'll just be a vicious cycle. So it's about actually trusting that there's a safety net underneath you. That trusting that if everything goes wrong, is that you will still be here with everything as a human being that you have right now. Okay? And it's getting it right in your mindset as to, okay, what am I happy enough with right now that I can let go of control over and I would be okay with? And do that first. And do that a couple of times. And start building up that little trust muscle. And then you start going, okay, what else can I let go of control? And see it more as a game rather than it's you're hanging off a precipice and looking down into this gaping chasm, black chasm. Because if that visualization comes up when it comes to surrendering, then this first part, trust, is something that you need to work on really, really hard until you actually get to the point where you go, okay, I trust myself. Okay? Because that's really important, is that you have to trust your choices and your decisions. Maybe then you move on to trusting somebody else's choices and decisions, somebody like your partner or your children or whatever. But it's about trust. That's how we start moving out of this control zone and start letting it grow and expand and release. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Number 2, connection. You're connected to everything. You're part of the web. You're part of the jigsaw. You are part of this human experience that everybody is experiencing right now on this planet, with every other sentient being and every non-sentient thing being, whatever you want to call it. But you are connected to everything. You have to feel into that you're not this little teeny thing, is that you have to feel into the bigger you, okay? Your bigger connection to your higher self, to nature, to your intuition. And once you start practicing your connection to those, then listen, okay? Listening is really, really important when it comes to the practice side of things, because listening is feminine and thinking is masculine, okay? So if you want to surrender in a feminine way into, where is this going to take me? How would I like my life to flow? Then when you put those questions out into the universe, then you have to wait and listen. You might hear it, you might think it, you might feel it. Somebody might come up to you and say something absolutely just like will blow your mind because you were only just thinking about it or talking about it with somebody else. But we have to build that inner trust that you are connected to everything. Okay? It's a web, and it flows and it moves in the wind, and it can go anywhere, and it can hold you safely anywhere. Okay? So it's about practicing your connection. You're not separate. You are everything. I know it's a little bit woo-woo, but I want you to feel into that, because it'll make a huge difference when you actually start trusting and practicing this actual, just letting it go and surrendering, okay? Number 3, intuitive practices. This is where we have to start walking the walk and not just talking the talk. Okay, this is where we have to start practicing meditation, practicing mindfulness, practicing maybe journaling, practicing maybe walking in nature on a daily basis, so we can practice that connection to source. Intuitive practices are anything that helps you connect to your higher self, to the collective consciousness, to something outside of you, but because you're part of everything, it reconnects you to this cycle of communication. All right? Because the universe is always speaking to you, speaking to all of us. And it's about how we, like the last slide says, we need to listen. It's practicing those skills of listening so that we can actually know when we're letting go of the stuff that we no longer want to control because it's not working for us, it's not going anywhere, we're stagnant, we're unhappy, everything is just sitting there. Then how do we move forward? So we need to change something. And part of it is starting to practice our intuitive practices. So as I said, meditation, journaling, mindfulness, breathing, just standing still and breathing. 3 deep breaths. You're back in the now. But these are vitally important. These aren't something that is just a lifestyle choice anymore, okay? If you actually want to live in a more surrendered flow of where you know you have purpose and that you just trust every step that comes your way, then intuitive practices is a daily thing that you do to keep connected, okay? It's not because your friend does it or your mum does it or your coach has told you to do it. You have to understand the reasoning behind why we do intuitive practices, and that is because it helps us surrender and live in flow, which is the most beautiful place ever. But we need to work at it. It doesn't become a natural, instinctual thing until it's like driving a car. And you first get in the car and you see all these sticks and levers and wheels and all this stuff. And you're like, holy crap, how am I going to learn how to do all this? And like, as I'm moving and hurtling across along the road, I'm going to kill somebody. I can't do this. Because we want to control it. But we have to be open to learning. And when we open to learn, we open up this huge space of potentiality, and it just all starts flowing in. So intuitive practices are really, really important if you want to learn how to surrender in a bigger way. Okay? Number 4, follow your intuitive hits. So number 4, you won't get to this point unless you're doing the first 3. Okay? Because Surrendering will only last a certain length of time if you're only doing 1 and 2, and maybe 3 every now and again. If you're only doing 1 and 2 and a little bit of 3, then you will only get a little bit of 4. It's really that simple. If you're not practicing, you will not tune in and get intuitive hits. Intuitive hits are ideas, feelings in your chest, in your heart, in your gut. Something sends shivers down your spine, or you get goosebumps. It's about tuning into all those 6 sensory things that will help you. This is your inner compass. Your body, your aura, everything that is you connected to everything is a compass to alignment and to flow. And when you're in that flow, you feel light and you feel really connected, and things just come easily either into your head or people show up and you're just like, and I love this shit. I love living this way. And then we get triggered, and then we go back into control and we feel heavy. It's a dense energy because it's connected to fear and it's connected to lack. This energy is connected to flow, to there's abundance for everybody. And that's why we have to practice to get from over here to over here, from the control to the surrender. Is this making sense? So it's not about when we get the intuitive hits. When you start practicing, you will probably second guess yourself. And then you'll probably give yourself a hard time, because actually if you had followed it, you probably would have been somewhere else, or something else would have happened to you. And actually where you've turned up is because you logically thought yourself out of your intuitive hit and you're back in the same space again. This has happened to me so many times. Do not give yourself a hard time about it. It's part of the practice. It's part of that building of the muscle that will get you to where you're going, okay? So the questioning and the doubting is all part of the practice. So just see it as that. It's just part of how you get stronger, how you get more intuitive, how you actually become this connected, intuitive, amazing human being, because you are going with flow and you're not going with how you think things should be. So it's about building all these intuitive hits into an experience, because that's how us as human beings, that's how we want to live, is that we understand that when we have good experiences, we want to do more of that. If we have bad experiences, then we don't want to do so many more of those. So it's about building up the good experiences by not questioning them, not doubting them, and actually trusting them whenever they come up. And sometimes you kind of go, is this real? Is that something? Did I just think that? Then ask for a sign. Stay in communication with the universe. All right. Are you still with me, ladies? And number 5 is synchronicity and flow. So number 5 only starts showing up when you are doing the first 4 and you're practicing the 4. Then you will start seeing so many things, like they feel like miracles. But all a miracle is a shift in energy, a shift in perception, a shift in how you thought what something could be can be something completely different and even better than before. That's all miracles are. It's a shift in perception from fear into love and trust. So synchronicity and flow then starts happening more and more and more as you stay connected, as you practice your intuitive practices, as you trust what hits you get and follow them. You might find more money shows up. You might find, well, for one thing, flow is all about ease and grace. It's not working, it's not pushing, it's not, there's nothing, when it comes to flow, it's the complete opposite to how we are actually living our lives in this busyness and in this, like, I've got 10 million things to do today and I'll never get through it. Flow is just like, okay, today, universe, I know of a few things coming up. Let's see where it's going to take us, who we're going to meet, what am I going to, learn today, and will it even kind of end the way that I think maybe that it is? Because that's the whole idea of flow, is that, you have a couple of steps that you want to do, but you're very open and very allowing of how they happen and where they might show up in your day, because you're constantly following your intuition and you're following that deep knowing and understanding of how the universe works, how you're connected to it. And that happens with experience. Let me just see, ladies, and know that there's a few comments. Somebody says yes. Okay, Samantha's gone. Bye, Sam. Okay, so ladies, how does that sound so far? Is that something that you want to? Jane says, hell yes. Grab your friends and try and share that shit. Yeah, it really, do you know what? It is something that we all need to learn, and it's something that we all need to be teaching other people, so that actually more of us can live in this state of synchronicity and flow. And as I said, it sounds easy, the surrendering sounds easy, but actually there is a way of doing it that helps you feel like there's structure to it, and helps you feel like that you have a sense of security within it and a sense of safety within it, because your intuition will never lead you in a place that is wrong, or lead you to a place that you will get hurt. You will always, your intuition has a deeper understanding of self than maybe you have. And so it's really about, tuning in, fine-tuning it. And fine-tuning it, what I mean by that is doing your intuitive practices. Yes, Siobhan, you need to follow your intuition more, and you need to listen. Because when we go into panic mode, or when we go into any kind of feelings that make us feel not enough, is that disconnects us. That disconnects us from source, and it disconnects us even from ourselves, because everything goes into our heads, into a little box, and like there's little men running around like going, the world's gonna end. I know that in my head that's how it sounds. So I've been in amazing places this whole month. I never knew I could be Suzanne for so long. I love it, Jane. I love it. And again, it's the practice, okay? And part of that practice is the allowing, which we're practicing in the Goddess Sisterhood, because it is, allowing is something that, we don't think about. It's something we aren't, taught. It's something we aren't told, that we can actually allow things in, and we can allow things out. But that's part of the law of giving and receiving, is that, we can let things shift in and new things shift in, and then we let old things shift out, and it flows. And this is the thing, is that, flow will never happen, and surrender will never happen when we have all 10 fingers on the steering wheel going, I know where we're going, I know where we're going. As soon as you do that, you're limiting all of this around us to this. You're blinkered, and you're focusing on the road, and you don't see the beautiful scenery or the people standing by the road or anything else, all the other miracles that can or could happen if you just took your hands off the steering wheel, took your foot off the accelerator, and maybe even just let somebody else drive. How's that? Now that takes a lot of trust and surrender. Let somebody else drive, but that's part of connecting to that. You're connected to everything. It's all practice and it's all doable. It is amazing, Jane. I'm so glad you're experiencing it. So just to kind of put that into perspective, is that if any of this has made sense to you tonight, and if anything has made you feel, actually, do you know what, I do want to change how I'm doing this. I know that I'm trying to control too much, and I know that it's making me unhappy or making me ill, because it does. It has an energetic effect on our bodies. Is that actually, do you know what, I need to do something with this. I need to change it. And if it's something that you are serious about changing, and you actually want to start practicing this with full accountability and full self-responsibility so that you're in charge of your transformation, then I invite you to look at and get an idea of the new program that I'll be releasing, and the doors are actually opening tomorrow for Goddess Arising. And it's a 10-month program, and it's a transformational program that will be just a teeny bit of it, but it's to give you an idea of where we will be going with this program and with this journey, because it's going to transform so many things. It will be a miraculous, if we're looking at it in the way that we're talking about, transforming it. It's a transformation of perspective from fear into love. Then you will get that miraculous transformation in this Goddess Arising program, because you will be moved and you will be taught and mentored and coached, and you will get lots of practice and a lot of the vital skills that we've been talking about, this only being one of them, as to actually starting to live more in flow, starting to live more from a place of surrender, starting to follow your purpose, but in a way that only you know how, in your own experience and your own uniqueness. And if that is something that is interest to you, or you're thinking, maybe I have to do this because, everything else that I'm trying right now isn't working, then private message me in the Awakening group or from my own page, and we'll talk about this, because it's actually going to be a very small group, because I am going to actually put a lot of my time and a lot of my mentoring personally into this group. You're going to get 4 hours of coaching every single month, both as a group and as one-on-one. It is something that, I have needed to up level in a long time. And I see lots of transformation happening with the women that I work with, but I want to up level this in regards to, I know that I can help that transformation be bigger and have a bigger effect on you, and to actually see your life change before your eyes is something that I have seen for myself, and it's something that I, want to give to a small group of women in this group. As I said, it's 10 months long. It will take commitment, and you will be accountable, and you will be responsible for yourself, and you will also see some amazing changes and transformation in your life. And if that is something that you're interested in, then private message me and we will jump on a call as to if this fits you and if you will fit into this group and this program, because I have a vision for where this is going to go. And it's going to be for committed, beautiful souls who want to go not only deep into their feminine, but start balancing the masculine and start living in this place of balance and flow and ease and grace. Anyway, ladies, I shan't take up any more of your time. I hope you enjoyed this evening. I hope the training has helped you. And I will be finishing the recording here. As I said, you know, if there's anybody you think this might actually help in regards to either your friends in the group or maybe somebody who isn't in the group right now, and you know, invite them to join and tag their name in the replay, and just, you know, help as many women feel empowered and feel better in their lives and feel more worthy. You are already worthy. You are already divine, and you are already connected to everything. Okay, my loves? You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Have a beautiful evening, ladies, and I'll talk to you in the groups. Bye for now.